What's going on, B people? This is Karthik, B-Boy Silk Roads, coming at you with the topic for today, which is the top 10 most historic moments and time periods in breaking, also known as B-boying and breakdancing. So we'll get straight to it. The first one is the start of Uprock in the late 60s to early 70s or so. So Uprock is the precursor dance to breaking, and in contrast to breaking, there's usually multiple people dancing at the same time, doing all kinds of gestures and burns that would later be incorporated in breaking, and they also dance to entire songs. There's also a huge emphasis on the top rock and the drops aspect in succession with the music itself. So another aspect of this time period is a sort of b-boy canon of songs that were happening at the time, and this is a particularly impactful one from James Brown. And as you can see and hear, the energy of the dance matches the energy of the music. And it was around this time where there were a lot of rock, funk, and soul records coming out that really encapsulated the struggle at the time. And it's kind of like a time capsule for how the people felt. So there's James Brown's Give It Up or Turn It Loose. There's Mexican, there's Apache, there's Jimmy Castor, and there's plenty more. So I'll put them all over here for you to absorb. So that is Uprock. So we'll go straight to number 2, which is the first B-Boys at the time. This right here is Frosty Freeze. He's actually a second generation B-Boy from the late 70s, but people talk about him as having that aesthetic of the original B-Boys from the early 70s. In terms of, there's a huge emphasis on top rock, huge emphasis on like Russians and CCs and in-your-face footwork, as we see over here, and spins, but they're very spontaneous, very wild and energetic Zulu spins, not really as refined as what we think of like a clean circular 6-step style is, because that still hadn't come into effect, but the energy that they were breaking with at the time had its own special feeling to it. So with first generation crews from the early 70s, including Mighty Zulu Kings, Crazy Commando with Commandos with B-Boy Spy, and various Latin American crews like Sal Soul and Puerto Rican crews as well. So that's kind of a little snippet of what the early breaking looked like. Next, we're gonna go to the second generation crews. Rocksteady versus Dynamic Rockers. So these two crews, with Rocksteady representing the Bronx, that's Crazy Legs over there. That's a cool moment over there. They made a card for the Prez and the VPs, Freeze and Ken Swift. So this is a cool moment because they had a lot of going back and forth because there was a lot of competition at the time. Who was the best in New York? Who wanted the most props? But at the same time, there was a lot of like switching between crews. There was a lot of teaching other crews what they had learned, just so that they can engender more competitive spirit, because that's just going to build both crews up and all of New York up. So eventually they got to even battle at Lincoln Center, which was another huge moment of random people on the street come out and see what breaking was. So at the end of the day, they were all promoting breaking. So that's number 3. So next we have Flashdance, which is a 1983 movie, which was the first media sensation of breakdancing that was spread across the world and inspired future movies like Breakin' and Beat Street. So this is just a really short, like wholesome clip of Rocksteady crew just rocking on the streets. So we have people like Ken Swift, Crazy Legs, and I believe Frosty Freeze at the end as well. And of course, showcasing other styles of hip hop as well. So this is also just a very iconic and great clip. So moving on to number 5, I believe, is New York City Breakers performing at the Kennedy Center for Ronald Reagan. And so New York City Breakers, originally known as Floor Warriors, had some help with marketing, and then they changed their name, and then they really expanded on the acrobatic style of breaking, and which is partly what gives the dance so much mass appeal because it's just immediately eye-catching. But it was also a little bit of the beginning of the end, so to speak. Just because the power and the tricks started to overshadow some of the intricacies of breaking, so that turned to cause some trouble with the dance, as Ronald Reagan there. So it's a really cool moment in terms of spreading awareness of what breaking is. So that's that. Right, so next, moving to Battle of the Year, which is a jam started out in Germany in 1990. So while breakdancing was exploding in the early 80s, by the late 80s or so, it started to die off. So thankfully, it had already spread to Asia. It had already spread to Canada, to Europe. So people were wanting to start their own jams, and while the first Battle of the Year had mainly German crews, they also had a crew from Switzerland and a crew from Hungary, and they're like, hey, this is larger than what we expected, and it just kept on growing and growing and growing. And today it's arguably the biggest current running jam. So it's also like an entire hip hop festival in the sense that it's a week long. They have workshops, people are selling various goods, people are exchanging information, and there's graffiti, there's music, and it's a vibe. So 1992 is of particular importance because this is Battle Squad versus Second to None. Battle Squad is a German crew, and here I believe Storm and Swift Rock were just coming to the jam to hang out and cypher. But people were calling them out for not wanting to battle, so then they're like, hey, I guess we gotta battle. And so here is them going against all of Second to None with just the two of them. So this is Swift Rock here. And they end up winning the entire jam, I believe. So this is just the old style of breaking, of going in, making your point, and then getting out, and just making as much impact as you can. This is Storm over here with his back rocks and octopus from his footwork fundamental DVD. Still unsure why back rocks are in a footwork DVD, but hey, it makes sense. Yeah, this is just a great battle to watch in terms of looking at the old way of call and response. So next we have the police raid of Bboy Summit '99, where you can think of it as the U.S. counterpart to Battle of the Year, in the sense that it's an entire hip-hop festival. Unfortunately, people were caught tagging the venue, and that almost got the whole event shut down. But it turned out to be a really cool moment, as it showed how hip hop could be used as a way to battle the police peacefully. And here you can hear Amasia One talking about the event. She's originally part of Rocksteady crew, and she moved over to LA and started Bboy Summit. And now you're about to see like a really cool moment of Crazy Legs battling the police. So this turned out to be a really special moment here. So I'll just let that play out. Really simple, but really powerful. Next, we'll move on to Freshest Kids, which is a documentary from 2002. And here you see the father hip-hop Cool Herc. He's talking about the creation of the break and how he went about that process. And you see various people from the early 70s, from the 70s, the 80s, and they include the DJs at the time, the breakers at the time, actors at the time. So there's just a lot of people here to who 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 were there at the start that you can learn from. So it's very much from the perspective of Rocksteady. So that's the only limitation of the movie. So moving on. So next we have R16, which is a jam that started in South Korea in the late 2000s. And this jam is significant for a couple reasons. Most importantly, it was one of the first jams heavily sponsored by a governmental entity. In this case, it was the South Korean government. And two, for the our judging system, as you can see here, broken down into 5 categories. And this is a little bit about the point system, 1 to 5, and this is a little bit about the tiebreakers. So this system made the judging of breaking much more transparent, and it helped lay people understand breaking all the more. So they brought judges out for every category to show what it actually means. So here's Ken Swift showing some of the foundation of the dance in terms of the footwork, the swiftness and the energy with which you do things, the top rock. Then there's Rocksteady showing originality, his own back rock moves, his own flows, his own transitions that show how he takes the foundation and then he flips it on his own to make it unique. So here's Focus showing the execution of the dance, showing how to make everything sharp and making all of your shapes clear, so that it's sort of the equivalent of rapping versus mumble rapping in terms of actually making things apparent. So physics for the dynamics, as you can see there with the threads and the very difficult power and strength-based moves, but also the control and that make breaking acrobatic and unique in terms of, you're not going to find this in gymnastics, you're not going to find this in other things. This is breaking's moves. Finally, you have Ness showing the battle aspect in terms of burning and responses to show how he's actually directing his moves at someone. It's not just dancing out into the open, but you're dancing with a purpose to show this guy and make an argument against this person. And later on, you can see how the O.U.R system is incorporated in battles and sport. So it really helped. Next, we have the Youth Olympics of 2018. I believe in 2016, the IOC announced that that breaking was going to be at the Youth Olympics, and then kids had to send their videos online. A bunch of them were selected. They went to Japan, where they did a qualifier, and then only a handful were selected, and then they were sent to Buenos Aires for the finals. And breaking in the Olympics is a hot topic in the past few years because it comes down to, is it a dance, is it a sport? But I feel like at the end of the day, like these kids are doing a lot in terms of making breaking an actual job. So props to them, and because I can't do that shit if I dreamed. So that is the Youth Olympics, and that is the final one. So I'll post all of these links in the description for the video, so that y'all can also do your own research. So peace.